same room. We share the love. Embracing the differences like hand in glove. Spread the peace and joy to both sides. Together we shine in each other's light. Together we stand in love's pure light. Watching the world in love.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Watching the World, where we cover the news. And look at here, we already have JDP in the building. Also, we have Eric. Thank you guys for tuning in right away. So we're going to be covering the President of the United States has had some special announcement to make. So stay tuned. We're just going to see. Yesterday, we covered the press conference with Donald Trump and Netanyahu, and basically we waited 2.5 hours for it to kick off. So hopefully today we do not have to do that. If the wait is unbearable, I will start covering some hot topics that we would love to hear about. Quite frankly, there's so much happening in the United States. Specifically, we've had maybe 3 major shootings over the weekend. Like, what's really going on? They're shooting at the bars. They're shooting at, the churches, so many different places. And throughout this year, we've had shootings at the ICE headquarters. We've had it at the CDC building. You can't even really prepare or say, well, if I go to this major event, I have to be careful because they're choosing just any and every place, especially if you have children. I'm pretty sure you worry constantly, like, what's happening with your children, your family members. Just so much to think about. So thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to wait patiently and see how long it takes for the president to come on and give his special announcement. And also, as you guys come in, tell us where you're coming in from, where you guys located. And again, hopefully it doesn't take long for this to kick off. We'll see what happens. I'm going to give it 5 minutes, and if it doesn't kick off, I'm going to start touching on a few of the hot topics, and then we'll just monitor the situations happening at the White House. Okay, JDP says, welcome in and thank you for joining. Watching the World 777. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. In the meantime, enjoy the live. Thank you. Oh, Joe Flores is in the house. Joe, good morning to you. Nice to see you, Joe. What's happening in the real estate world? For those of you who may not know, Joe Flores is a big-time real estate agent here in New York, right? In my neighborhood, we did deals, what do you say, Joe, for 20 years, right? We've closed deals together, commercial and residential real estate. So if you need to get some advice about real estate, definitely reach out to Joe, especially when it comes to flipping properties. Joe specializes in that. In fact, I believe it was just last year, Joe won an award for being a high producer at his company as far as real estate transactions. So definitely, we have some incredible people that are in tune with this channel. We have the criminal defense attorney that comes on every Sunday. His name is Calvin Johnson. He gives great advice on any type of legal questions you may have. In fact, during the week, if you have any questions about real estate, feel free to email me, and I will definitely ask Calvin those questions on Sunday, and you can hear him answer those questions for you. Or I constantly tell you, if you do have a local case that you would like for me to cover to put more eyes, sometimes we have at least 50,000 people that come through and look at through and check out the channel per video, per show. And so you never know. We would be more than happy to share that specific case in your hometown. Or it might be a case that affects, with that many people coming through, it might be something affecting your family. It might be a case affecting you as well. So feel free. But getting back to some of the specialists that we do have here on the channel, we have a body language expert. Yes, indeed. Last name is Cobb. She's been on the channel so many times, but she breaks down all of the body language associated with these crimes that we cover. So imagine that we have the criminal defense attorney, we have the body language expert, we have so many experts. We really should take advantage of it. But again, just send me an email to watchingtheworld@gmail.com if you'd like to talk about these different matters. Again, for those of you who are coming in, please hit the like button. We're waiting for the President of the United States. We're going to cover, he's going to make some special announcement. Perhaps it's in relation to the press conference that we saw yesterday with Netanyahu. Let's see what's going on in the audience. Guy. Okay. All right. That doesn't seem like a pleasant comment. JDP says, okay, congrats to you, Joe. Yes, indeed. You have a lot of good support here, Joe. The name of the station, this channel is called Watching the World. The station that we're going to watch the president through is through the Associated Press. So what you're seeing on the video feed above is actually live. Okay. So again, we're waiting for the President of the United States to come through. Some of the things that we're going to cover today, we're going to talk about Comey. We know that the president, well, he says that he perhaps didn't know anything about it, but it seems that those who went after him in the past are definitely catching heat from the President of the United States. We also had a superintendent in Iowa. He was originally from Guyana. We're going to cover his story. He was picked up by ICE last Friday. Can you imagine that? And when they found the guy, now, mind you, in 2023, he was approved. He was hired to be the superintendent of the school, the largest school district in Iowa. And when they picked him up on Friday, he had $3,000 cash in the car, which could be explainable, but he also had a gun. So he tried to flee, and I guess they caught him allegedly in the bushes or the woods. Like, you can't even make this stuff up. So that's a big topic. A lot of people want to know what's happening with it. Also, we're going to cover a little bit about Sean Diddy Combs. As you know, Friday, I will be at the courthouse covering the case. We're going to find out how much time ultimately he will receive in relation to his sentencing. The prosecutors are asking for 11 years. And basically, the defense team is asking for time served. I think he's been incarcerated for a little bit over a year now. So where will the cookie crumble? Where's it all going to fall? We don't know. A lot of people think it's going to be right in the middle. The criminal defense attorney that we have here on the channel by the name of Calvin Johnson, I think his number was around 3 years, and perhaps he'll get the time served shaved off. And also in the federal grading system, there's a lot of credits that are given. So ultimately, if he gets anything, I believe around 3 years, he'll walk away with very little time. Okay, heart chakra, grand rising to you as well. Oh, Lord Hager says, oh, are you announcing the release of the Epstein files? I don't think so. I do not think we're going to see the Epstein files. And there's a lot of different takes on it. A lot of people think maybe perhaps Donald Trump is trying to protect his own neck, right? I heard a good take on it last week that perhaps Donald Trump is trying to protect Clinton. Right? That's what's now allegedly, this is what's in the media. But what do you guys think? And why do you think the Epstein files are the great enigma and we can't seem to get a hold of them? In fact, does it really matter to you about the Epstein files? Tell us what you think. Is it a big concern? Um, at the end of the day, I do believe that it was the MAGA group that really pushed to get the Epstein files, to get them released. In fact, when Donald Trump, who I cover closely, follow closely, I even covered his trial. I went to Donald Trump's trial. It was quite exciting to just see all the media there. Also covered the Sean Diddy Combs case as well, but Donald Trump's case was more organized from what I could see. In fact, I'll tell you a little story since we do have time. And again, we're waiting for the president to actually make an announcement. But at Donald Trump's trial, and you might think it's a small tale, but it's a big deal. Ultimately, I had to go out on the streets of New York, and to be able to get into the courtroom, I went out at 5 o'clock the previous night. And I sat out there actually through the cold because Donald Trump's, unlike Diddy's case where it was actually warm outside, Donald Trump's case happened when it was really cold out. So we waited throughout the night. But what I liked about his case versus Sean Diddy Combs is that they had two separate lines. They had a line for the public, which was very distinct. And then they had a separate line for the media. And so imagine that you're in line and next to you, you have these high power named people who are actually waiting in line, or at least they come early in the morning right before court, because most of these individuals, even on the public side, they have what you call line sitters. And so usually these line sitters charge about $30 an hour. So if they come and wait for you, let's say the night before, you might be paying $300 to $400 a night just to get in. But as I clearly documented, you could go back and look at the different videos that I put out when I was covering Diddy's trial. I even put out some videos for Trump's trial, but for Diddy's trial, you'll see all the chaos because they had the media and they had the public all in one line. And we had everything from fights. The courthouse actually that Donald Trump's case was in while we were at Diddy's trial, it did not happen at that courthouse, but a guy came in off the public and he stabbed some of the court staff in the courthouse. Can you imagine that? So it's not easy to actually attend these trials because this, especially here in New York City, I mean, you're out here, it's no telling what type of people you might face. So that just gives you a general idea. The other thing I liked about Donald Trump's trial, and again, we're waiting for the president to come through and give his announcement. So I'm just giving you guys a little insight. They actually, for Trump's trial, they gave you a ticket. Actually, I have my yellow ticket. And so when they give you that ticket in the morning, you would have it all day. And if you came back out for lunch or what have you, then all you had to do was show your ticket. Some people would actually give their ticket to someone else, and then they would come in and attend maybe, let's say, the afternoon. So with Diddy's trial, it was changing. It was just fly by night. They were trying to figure it out as they went. You would think it was the first trial that was ever held at the courthouse. But I think by the end, the system was more compatible. Okay, let's see. Dusty Elmer, I'm doing fine. Whoever you're speaking to, it says they will never release the Epstein files because it incriminates all of the heads of the government. Okay, or the G7. That's a good point. I think a lot of people feel that way. I think it touches not only the United States. I think the Epstein files touches pretty much most of the big countries, right? There is a new philosophy pushed by Tucker Carlson, allegedly. Now, I'm only going off of what I've seen stated, is that perhaps Epstein was a part of the Mossad. You hear all of these theories floating around. on the internet, and that's how they state. Now, think about it. Epstein, they were able to pull up all of his wire transfers collectively more than $1 billion. And, the federal government can trace your everyday person wire transfers. So I'm pretty sure they know who he was wiring and who was wiring money to him. But $1 billion is a lot of money. But with this new train of thought, they're trying to say, well, Israel was perhaps funding him. Now, we have no truth to that, but these are some of the philosophies that are being pushed. Now, it kind of ties in with Charlie Kirk. That's a very sensitive subject, especially when you have J.D. Vance saying, hey, if you see someone speaking negatively about Charlie Kirk, call their boss, call their employer. And so you actually have people on Facebook that are just can't wait to meddle and call other people's employers. And now you see people removing a lot of their private information. Remember, it used to be a brave talk to tell people where you work. You post it on your Facebook or your Instagram, maybe perhaps. And actually, I just looked, there's a lot of people out there on the streets of DC. This is live, folks, what you're seeing. We're waiting for the president to make an announcement. We're going to wait a little bit longer, right? But J.D. Vance did say call the employers of individuals speaking negatively. So we'll have to see how this all turns out. Thank you guys for the continued comments. I'm going to try to cover as many as I can. Blue Gill, welcome into the building. Thank you. Nice to have you here. We're doing well, and thank you for the concern. Okay, here we go, guys. And this is the Associated Press that's freezing up. Hopefully they can figure this out. Okay, this is the Associated Press. Currently, they're frozen, so let's see what happens. If not, we'll find a different way in. And again, thank you guys for all the participation. Please hit the like button and share. And afterward, we'll get back to a little bit of the discussion we were having. I'll pick up where we left off. We don't have sound. Okay, guys, we do not have sound, but it's not on my end. It's coming in through the Associated Press. I'm not sure why. Hopefully, they will fix this. Okay, so we'll have to find a different source. The Associated Press, they're having a problem. It's not on my end here. Okay, let's hang tight. Let's see if we can get a different way in. Okay, just sit tight, folks. Let's see if we can find a different format here. The Associated Press has no sound. Okay, so we're trying to get in for the president's speech. Let's see if we can find a way in. Let's try Fox. Okay, here we go.
Most favored nations prices is going to have a huge impact on bringing Medicaid costs down, like nothing else. I told you that in my first term, I was so proud of the fact that for the first time in 28 years.
Thank you guys for your patience. Hopefully Fox let us stay on.
Conference that I explained, it was 0.1%, but it was down. And here we're talking about, in one case, over 1,000%. This is a critical step forward to our work and to improve healthcare, and hardworking, low-income Americans, especially low-income Americans, will be helped so greatly. In addition, Pfizer is agreeing to provide some of their most popular current medications to all consumers at heavily discounted prices of anywhere between 50 and even 100%. And that's off the price. And in some cases, even more than that. These drugs will be available for direct purchase online at a website operated by the federal government. We're also announcing that moving forward, all new medications introduced by Pfizer to the American market will be sold at the reduced most favored nation cost. So we'll be paying essentially what other countries are paying, who have been much lower, much lower for many, many years. Furthermore, Pfizer will invest $70 billion.
When too much work bogs you down, Asana helps you handle it. That's because Asana is where humans and AI coordinate work together. AI makes it easy to hand off routine tasks, streamline workflows, and keep everyone focused on the work that matters most. That's how work gets handled. That's Asana. Visit us at asana.com.
Guys, hold on 1 second. I'm not sure what is going on here.
Agreements, everyone understands that the status quo where Americans pay more for drugs, prescription drugs, and they pay more than foreign countries who take advantage of us in many other ways, although not so many anymore. I think we've pretty well got that stopped, right? I think so. We've stopped that, but they took advantage of a lot of other precedents, that I can tell you. But we're making this pay to be very unacceptable, what they've done in the past. That's why my administration has also taken historic action to investigate the unfair and discriminatory trade practices of other countries that extort our pharmaceutical makers to shift costs onto the American consumer. They say, no, give us a price, a very low price, and just charge the American consumer, charge it to the U.S. The United States is done subsidizing the health care of the rest of the world. It's a big thing. I can't tell you how big this is. And I was all set to go on that first term, but then you had the COVID, and we had to focus on that. But I said, I want to get back here, because you're talking about 14, 15, 1,600% reductions in some cases. But by taking this bold step, we're ending the era of global price gouging at the expense of American families, and we're making America healthy again, which is our little theme for the people behind me. And I want to just ask Secretary Kennedy to come up, and we'll start, and we'll go through it with Oz and Klump and Bourla and McCary, and we'll go through it. And if you have any questions, but this is a really big announcement. This is something that most people said was not doable. And other countries are going along because we told them that if you don't go along, they didn't have to go along. But if they didn't go along, we were going to put extra tariffs on those countries, and we were going to charge them the amount of money that they should be paying for the reduction in costs. So I think we had a pretty good negotiating position. So, Bobby, I'd like you to speak about this, and what a great job, and thank you very much.
A couple of people aren't up here, Steve Merkel, Dr. Heidi Overton, who played key roles in this negotiation and help make this happen. and also Inma Hernandez, who's not up here, John Brooke and Chris Klump, who were the people who were negotiating, in some cases, I think including last night, 24 hours without any sleep. This would not have happened without President Trump's leadership. I told my son last night, we're all under secrecy about this, but I told my son late last night, a 27-year-old son, Connor, who's a very liberal Democrat. I told him this was happening, and he just paused for a minute and he said, "Thank you, Dad. I'm so proud of you." Because this is something Democrats have wanted for 20 years. Republicans have wanted for 20 years. Everybody said they're going to do it. Nobody has even taken a step towards doing it. And the reason was because it was such a daunting task. And, you know, even all of the negotiators, you say, I also want to thank Howard Lutnick. This would not have happened without him. But even all of the negotiators here and all the people on HHS and at the White House team, all we could see was all the reasons that this couldn't happen. Everybody tried. Nobody could make it happen. And it was President Trump alone who, with his doggedness, his persistence, he saw this clearly in a way that none of us other, in its most simplest terms. Why are we spending more on this country than any other country? Why are we spending 75% of the revenues that come to the pharmaceutical industry? We're doing all the research and everybody else is riding on our slipstream. And President Trump, I would say, harangued and harassed us to make this happen. I was getting 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. Oh, are you asleep? And you got to get MFN done. And at one point, Dr. Oz told me I can't take the president's calls anymore. I have a lot of reasons. My wife has a lot of reasons to say to me about different things that happen in my life. Doesn't that give you anxiety? And I say, I don't get anxiety. This gave me anxiety. Oh, thank you, President Trump. It would not have happened without you. This is real leadership. It's somebody, a president who has a vision and makes that vision happen. And I can't think of any other president of the United States who could have done this in our history. I'm very grateful to you. This is an extraordinary benefit. The American people, thank you for your vision, President Trump. You're bold to health and well-being of the American people. Never has a president stood up so bravely for the American people with respect to healthcare. And by the way, I forgot to thank Albert Burla. Albert and I have had a long history of antipathy and antagonism toward each other. But I have to say his leadership in this took tremendous courage. And he really created a template for corporate responsibility, for putting public health ahead of his individual interests. So I'm very, very grateful to you for that, Albert. Under the leadership of President Trump, the U.S. government is now acting as a tough negotiator on behalf of the American people. Today is about fairness, it's about equality, it's about giving hope to those who are trying to stay healthy, who are managing illness and who are fighting for their lives. We refuse to make the most vulnerable citizens continue to pay an unthinkable price for the world's pharmaceutical breakthroughs, which we pay for. This policy is a shield for the chronically ill who have carried the burden of high drug costs for far too long. It's a signal to every American family that we're finally putting their health and financial security first. And it sets a new standard, one that says we won't write blank checks to the drug industry any longer. No family should ever be forced to choose between filling a prescription and putting food on the table. Americans should not be gouged paying 300 or 400 or 1,000% more than people in other countries for the exact same drug, many times manufactured by in the same factory in New Jersey and sold in Great Britain for 1/10 the price that it's being sold for here. This week, and I was with some friends up in Martha's Vineyard, and an old friend, one of my oldest friends, his wife and daughter have a chronic disease. And that chronic disease last year cost $150,000 to treat. And The mother had to choose whether she was going to take that money and spend it on her or her daughter. And she spent it on her daughter. So she had to make that choice. It's a choice that no mother should have to make. We did a roundtable recently on drug prices. One patient spent more than $180,000 on one drug. One cashed in all of her savings and worked 3 jobs to make ends meet. One almost quit her job and moved to Germany to get the drug cheaper. Some looked at getting the drug on unsafe secondary markets because they could not afford it through the legitimate markets. Today, we begin to right that ship. For the mother trying to help her child get better, for a grandmother at the pharmacy counter, and for millions of Americans who want to restore their health. Today is about another promise made by President Trump and another promise kept by President Trump to the American people. And it's only just the beginning. This is all thanks to your unwavering leadership, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you.
There is a fine line between vision and hallucination. People have to follow you for it to be a vision. And President Trump, you made a lot of people following you an idea that most people thought was not possible, even remotely. And when we have that shared vision, and I'll speak to some of the people who are involved in this process because it was incredible effort that gives me great pride to serve in this administration. And the fact that it did not leak is also an issue of pride for us because these were tough challenges. And Albert Bourla looks very calm up here and cat-like, but he is ferocious when you get him in a negotiating room. This is true for all the pharmaceutical companies that we are negotiating with. And Secretary Kennedy, my son Oliver, who I told about this deal as we was walking over here, is a Republican. And you know what he said? Thank you for making us proud. Because it's not just a Democratic problem, it's a Republican problem. This has not happened before. And it took a crusader like President Trump, with the support of Secretary Kennedy, Secretary Lutnick, I see the vice presidents here as well, just unwavering, dogged pursuit of change. And now I have to admit that I know the president has me on speed dial, and most of the time when he would call me, as Secretary Kennedy alluded to, it was about MFN, and he always had reasons why we needed to go faster, and why people were being hurt today, because we're allowing the kinds of pricing that had been tolerated for so many decades in America. The time of the day didn't matter, the day of the week didn't matter, and that's how the president was functioning. This was such an important part of what he saw as his legacy, which is why it brings such pride to all of us up here and many others to deliver it. And the laser focus that the president had on this, which he shared with me the day that I was nominated, that he nominated me for this position, and has reminded me frequently since, made it a top priority for us as well at CMS. Now, to do this, you have to have tactics, not just vision, but tactics. And the first tactic the president shared was to introduce me to Albert Bourla. He took us to dinner with Secretary Kennedy, and he argued, and he's a great deal maker, as you know, that if you're going to make a deal of this scope, of this nature, you need trust. So the president lit the kindling. He got the embers going, but he needed us to nurture that beginning of a fire so they would blaze into what today we can announce as the grand deal, one of the greatest ever, certainly in the space of pharmaceuticals. I gained to respect Albert, and I'll tell you why in particular. It was because he recognized the dangerous problems facing so many Americans, that they had to choose between taking medications prescribed by their doctor that could be life-saving, or shopping at the grocery store, paying for their kids a fundamentally important need that would be squeezed out because they couldn't compromise on drugs, or often worse, they compromise on the drugs. 1/3 of all prescriptions are not filled in the pharmacy because of this. We talked through the winter. We talked through the spring. We talked through the summer, and we got nowhere. We stalled. The industry is powerful. They're important. They have smart people. There's no reason for them to give the numbers that the president is articulating today. And you see these numbers on the charts around us. These are massive wins for the American people. But the president in July demanded, after the executive order, that manufacturers make a firm commitment and to lower prices or else. And it sent shockwaves through the industry. It got the ball rolling again. Our talks with Albert heated up, but it wasn't until last week, if you want an inside story, it wasn't until last week that we made a major breakthrough. And our hardworking team embarked on a remarkable story that I think books will be written about, 24/7, nonstop, with industry, with Albert, with his great team at Pfizer. And with this partnership, we began to deal with the fundamental challenges we have, which is protecting medical advances for the future while at the same time securing the prices Americans want today. We're going to continue to stimulate and strengthen innovation. That's what a great country does, and we are a great country with a great leader. We're going to protect the U.S. hegemony in R&D. We dominate the planet in discovering cures for illnesses. All those orphan ailments, all those remarkable advances, they come from research labs here with companies like Pfizer and other great ones in the pharmaceutical space. We're going to lead in the life sciences. We're going to lead in ideas, and we're going to make sure that we do all that while we're being fair to the American people, especially our most vulnerable. We're going to finally deliver on the fair drug prices that President Trump has been speaking about for 2 terms. We're going to celebrate this historic day, I predict, this historic day in the medical field for generations to come. The heroic negotiators that I do feel compelled to mention, and Secretary Kennedy kindly also mentioned their names. Some of them can't be in here because they're busy negotiating future deals. Inma Hernandez-Delso, John Brooks, who's a deputy administrator of mine, Theo Merkel, who is in the back and tall and hard to miss with DPC, and Corey Enslin with the same group, did a spectacular job, and Don Dempsey at OMB. Just wonderful human beings, worked tirelessly to get this done. We were able to secure this first MFN deal, and the president touched on this, but we have much more to come. You'll be hearing breaking news from the president for the rest of the fall. And Mr. President, these brilliant minds are here because of you. Now, I don't want to just pay homage to this. I want to actually speak this a little bit. The passion to protect the American people brings top-tier Americans into the government. We've created a powerful administration with the president's leadership, an administration of winners. People get things done. They see the generational opportunity to fix the biggest problems our nation faces. And the person who led this negotiation, Chris Klump, embodies this seal. Now, Chris Klump came to visit Secretary Kennedy and I the very first day we were looking for staff to try to bring in the government. And neither of us really had an idea of how challenging this might be. And he came to the interview, and we knew that he had built a business that was worth several $100 million. And the secretary, very poker-faced as he tends to be, looked at him and said, "Are you willing to give it all up and move your family to Washington?" A young family, 4 young children, beautiful wife. "Are you willing to come across the country and serve our nation, serve this president to ensure vital programs like Medicare, which he runs, will keep our seniors healthy for years to come?" He gave it all up, like so many have in this administration, passionate to follow the president's lead and serve under Secretary Kennedy. And for those of you at home who are watching, and I hope there are quite a few, I think this shows just how cool a place it is to work, is in this government. And I take great pride in handing the ball to Chris. Chris, tell the American people what they have won, thanks to your passionate ability to deliver on President Trump's promise.
Thanks very much.
Guys, like and subscribe.
Thank you, Mr. President. You have enabled something that as recently as last night, nearly everyone has said was impossible. And Secretary Kennedy and Administrator Oz, thank you for having trust in us as a negotiating team to drive this forward on behalf of the American people. It is an absolute honor and privilege. And Mr. Borla, to you and to the team at Pfizer, you have taken a step that I think few appreciate, requires a level of courage to change something that for decades administrations have tried. And there was no incentive rationally for you to do, and yet you've done it because you recognize the opportunity to align your economic interest with the social interest of the American people, and we are grateful. Today is historic, as has been discussed. This is a major win in the battle for affordable healthcare and affordable drugs. As the president said, on average, we pay nearly 3 times what the rest of the wealthy world pays for branded pharmaceuticals. And yet we drive more than 50% of global R&D, 50% of revenues, nearly 70% of profits. It's unjust. It's morally unjust. And when this happens, we stifle innovation and we limit access for the most vulnerable people across the planet and in America who need these medications. And so the president directed us to make deals. That's what he does, and it's what we do. And all great deals, and this is a great deal, are rooted in principles. And this deal was rooted in the principle of fairness. Now, the president could have directed us to go to the poorest country on the planet and find the cheapest price for every single drug and bring that back to the United States and use the might of the government to insist that that's the price we pay. And that might have worked actually for just a little bit, but very quickly, it would have utterly destroyed innovation in pharmaceuticals. It would have destroyed American primacy. in building life-saving medications. There are nearly 20,000 known diseases on the planet. We have treatments or cures for far fewer than 10% of them. So that would have been a bad strategy, and it would have limited access to those who need those medications the most. But he didn't call for that. He didn't call for 50% lower than the lowest price on the planet. What he called for was fairness. And that's a powerful principle, because we all grow up wanting to be on the right side of fair. And it allowed us to do what has not been done before, which is to call on manufacturers and ask them to be fair, and allows us to go to countries and ask them to pay their fair share in the battle against global disease. And that is the unlock for this great deal. Now, it's my privilege to talk just for a few minutes about the details of the deal. First, let's start with the definition of MFN. What do we mean by that? This is not made up list prices that have often been quoted in prior administrations, stuffed with fees and rebates. We're talking about we start at net prices, after fees, after rebates, the prices people actually pay here, the prices people actually pay in other wealthy countries. We then index to a basket of countries, wealthy countries across the world. And we go drug by drug, and we look for the lowest price. And that becomes the starting point for what an MFN price is in the United States. And then we've built this principles of fairness on 5 key pillars, as we've talked about. Number 1, as has been discussed, direct access for patients at Trump RX, which is a site soon to be launched, available often at full MFN and always at lower prices than currently available. This is bypassing middlemen. It increases transparency. In many instances, prices are 80% lower than they are today. No more Canadian detours to purchase drugs more inexpensively at our neighbor. You do it from home, you do it a click. This is American ingenuity outsmarting the system. Number 2, the president was very clear to us and directed us to ensure that we secured the lowest prices for the most vulnerable Americans, those who are served by Medicaid. So we focused there first. So Pfizer will be putting virtually all of its portfolio of drugs at MFN prices available to Medicaid in the near future. This safeguards the program. This ensures that this program lives as a lifeline without undue burden on the taxpayer for those who need it most, for our vulnerable Americans whom we are charged morally to care for. The third principle is about future-proofing fairness. This is the idea that Pfizer has committed, as are other manufacturers, that they will not launch a new drug for commercial, Medicare, Medicaid, or cash pay markets at a price that is higher than the other wealthy world. Now, they are free to price their drugs wherever they want. These are not price caps. These are not price controls. They can price however they'd like. We're simply asking them, and they are committing not to undercut us in other countries. This is an essential principle. This allows us to retrain other countries to appropriately value innovation for their citizens, to appropriately understand what fair share means, to contribute global R&D. This allows us not to compromise access for those who need it most. And this is a powerful commitment. The fourth principle is around shared savings. As our commerce colleagues and as our US trade representative colleagues succeed in encouraging other countries to pay more for existing medications, a portion of that will go to fund additional R&D. And a portion of that will repatriate back to the United States to offset prices, lower prices further for Americans on those existing drugs. And the fifth principle, as discussed, with hats off to Secretary Lutnick and Ambassador Jameson Greer from US Trade, is about Pfizer committing to onshore 100% of the value of all imports that it currently imports to the United States, thus ensuring that we seal our great American resurgence. If you're watching this right now and you have been looking for evidence that this is a president who knows and cares about you, who is fighting for you, who is fighting for every American, this is Exhibit A. This is not an empty promise. It's not platitudes. It's not lacking a plan. These are hard contracts with teeth, lowering prices now that we will all feel. These are the most significant, historical, substantive, mathematically quantified price reductions in the history of our country and modern-day pharmaceuticals. I cannot thank you enough for your leadership in enabling this to happen. It is an absolute pleasure. The president has showed us that the impossible can be achieved, and that is what's happened today. God bless America. With that in mind, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Albert Bourla, CEO of Pfizer.
Mr. President, what an honor to be here today in this office to announce a landmark agreement. I think it's an historic day.
Is this the coolest office? He has a beautiful office, but the Oval is the coolest, right? What do you think?
I think by far. And I have seen other presidents' offices. There's nothing like that.
Yeah, it's good office.
Yeah. So it's an historic day because I think today we are turning the tide and we are reversing an unfair situation. For years, other rich nations refused to pay the fair share for the medical innovation. And as a result, Americans had to assume disproportional cost on their shoulders. This situation, we all knew, is not sustainable. This situation is a situation that many wanted to change, but no one could. This is changing today with this agreement. In July, the president sent to me and other heads of pharmaceutical companies a letter. And over there, he articulated 4 specific requests. These requests, it was obvious to us, were designed to lower drug cost in the America in different ways, each one of them. And altogether, holistically, to have synergistic effect in the impact that that will have in the US healthcare cost and patients. With this deal that we signed today, we satisfied all 4 of President's requests, all 4. The big winner of this deal clearly will be the American patient. There is no doubt about it. They are the ones that will see significant impact in their ability to buy medicines. But I would argue that it is not the only winner. I think who else is a winner here? It is American innovation and American economy. In our industry, we had 2 major overhangs that have substantially reduced our valuations and create concerns for us in our ability to invest. We are addressing both of them right now, and I will speak about them. The first one was the uncertainty of tariffs. Because President is absolutely right. Tariffs is the most powerful tool to motivate behaviors, Mr. President, and clearly motivated ours, right? So by this agreement that we did, we commit to onshore the production of our medicines that are consumed in the US and are made outside the US. And for that, we are ready to unleash our investment portfolio in this country. And the president graciously gave us a 3 years grace period that we will not be subject to the 232 tariffs, as long as, of course, we move the products here. That's one. The second overhang in our industry was this uncertainty. What will happen with the framework of pricing in the country? Because this uncertainty, it was what was holding people from investing in the pharmaceutical industry, which resulted in significant reduction of our multiples. Actually, our multiples are at historical low. Well, now we have clarity about what is the framework for the US pricing. Read the letter of President Trump, read the 4 points, and this is the framework. And we will abide to that, and going forward, this is how things will be priced in the US and abroad. We are ready to invest, as the president also mentioned, $70 billion in the next few years from Pfizer in manufacturing and research in America alone. I really think this is an historical moment because also I can put that behind us and focus on the things that I want to spend my time, cancer treatments, to bring better obesity medicines, to bring better vaccines, to bring things that people value. And thank you for allowing us to do that. I want to thank Secretary Kennedy. I want to thank Secretary Latnik. Your leadership helped us to put that together. You are the mastermind of everything. And without the brilliant way that you designed the whole thing, we wouldn't be able to make it happen. Blessings. But you were even more brilliant because you had someone in your team that he was the driving force behind everything. And I don't have words to thank you for your integrity. And it is what you have said. We created trust from day one. And that was the most important thing that allowed us to be able to pull very difficult negotiations. Of course, also I want to thank the US trade representative, who is also heavily engaged, and he's probably the first trade representative that I have seen that cares about our industry and cares to do something about unfair situations out there, but more than anyone else. Mr. President, I want to thank you.
Thank you very much.
For your leadership and frankly for your friendship.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Albert, thank you very much. Great job. Great job.
Thank you, Mr. President. The growth of drug spending, that is the increase in drug pricing, is the fastest and biggest increasing area of healthcare spending. So today's announcement has incredible implications for healthcare spending in the United States. And today marks the beginning of the end of the Great American Ripoff. And it also marks the beginning and the end of a great American tragedy, something I've seen as a physician at the bedside. Patients getting spun up into a financial rage, doing GoFundMe campaigns online, sending repeat reminders, asking people to donate, getting their churches to pass the offering plate from pew to pew, Sunday after Sunday, to try to get enough money to pay for a drug in the United States, a drug that's 5 or 10 times more expensive than the same drug in France or Germany or the UK. People get spun up and it's a tragedy. Having cancer is hard enough. Getting spun up into a financial rage in order to try to get the money to pay for treatment makes it so much harder. 37% of people who go through cancer care say in the end that the financial toxicity makes them want to avoid or delay care in the future. That is, they're done with it. They're done with the system. That's how toxic financial toxicity can be. And for what? For what? So the US can finance the R&D of the world? Well, that ends today, thanks to President Trump. So we want to see R&D. We want to see American pharmaceutical companies thrive. We want to see pharmaceutical companies that do business and manufacture in the United States thrive. At the FDA, we're doing our part. If you're going to equalize your price to that of other wealthy countries, we're not talking about Zimbabwe. We're talking about Germany, France, UK, Japan, other wealthy countries, the OECD countries. If you equalize your price, then we're going to put your future applications at the front of the line. A voucher to get a review in weeks has a market street value of about $500 million because every day is money when it comes to getting a drug approved. And so if you meet one of the president's national priorities stated very clearly, moving manufacturing to the United States, meeting a large unmet public health need, or equalizing your prices. We're the largest purchasers of drugs. We deserve the best prices. And so we're going to do our part. And if a generic company makes their drug in the United States, that application is going to move to the front of the line as well. And if you're going to build a plant in the United States, our FDA inspectors will walk through that plant during the construction phase, something never done before, so that it's ready on day one. So thank you, Mr. President, for your leadership. They said it couldn't be done, and here we are. Thank you.
Chris, you may want to go up and just show one of the boards about how quickly the prices come down. And these are small examples. We're going to have it over 1,000% in some cases. You'll see that during the week. But we just picked out 4 at random, and you see the kind of numbers. Bobby and maybe Albert, good.
It's 4 examples, but I want to be totally clear. These are not the only 4 examples. And as the president mentioned, this is not the only agreement. It is the first. It's a historic agreement. There are many to come, and we're excited to talk about them. And that means hundreds and hundreds of drugs. We are not exaggerating when we talk about reductions of up to 80%. We give you 4 examples here, one for dermatitis. The new price at MFN results in 80% reduction to what's available today. One in postmenopausal osteoporosis, 85%. Migraines that affect so many Americans, 50% reductions. Rheumatoid arthritis, something my own mother struggled with, 40% reductions. This is about access. This is about ensuring Americans have access to life-saving medications. These are real prices. These are net prices. They're not made up. They're not funny numbers.
Thank you very much. Great job you've done. Everybody here has been incredible. We've been standing here talking about the Make America Healthy Again a lot lately, and I think our meeting the other day was excellent on a thing called Tylenol. That was a very important meeting. I think that was a very important meeting. And this, in terms of pricing, it's going to be great for Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security is going to be great for everything because your medicine costs are coming way down. We have some examples that I think we'll be able to show you next week of over 1,000% in some cases, where a pill that cost $10 in London was costing $130 in New York and various other places within the United States. And the same thing with Canada. People would go to Canada, they go to Mexico, they go to other places to buy drugs. They don't have to do that anymore. So we have favored nations. So that's what we have. And it's one of the biggest days I think anybody will ever have. We're talking about massive numbers, and the numbers are going to get even better with a little time. And I will say, Albert, I think that the drug companies are going to be the same. You're going to, you know, the world, we're really competing against the world. So they have more people. So we'll come down a lot and the world's going to go up a little bit. And the end result is you're going to, I think, do the same business pretty much. Maybe you'll figure a way to do more business, I think, knowing you. But I think the drug companies, we're going to come down a lot. The U.S. will come down a lot. But the world, many more people, is going to go up a little bit. And it equalized. And it's a great tribute. And I want to thank everybody up here. JD, thank you for all of your help too. And Howard, great, really great job. Thank you all very much. Do you have any questions? How about we focus on this? It's so big, let's focus on this.
Mr. President, can you please give us a timeline?
Yeah, Mr. President, first of all, this kind of goes along with your America First campaign promises with lowering healthcare costs. On a day that it seems like we're going into a government shutdown led by Democrats on the premise of providing health benefits to illegals, this seems to, your move here is a stark contrast to that. Could the same principles that you did today apply to health insurance, to maybe lower the cost of health insurance? Many Americans are kind of struggling with that.
We're working on just that, little different group, but we're working on just that. It could, I don't know to this extent. You know, we have a pill, one pill in particular we're going to show you next week. It sells for $10 in other countries and $137 in the US. And that's coming down now to probably $15 or $18. They'll go up to 18. I think that's pretty much right, Albert. It's not you, but they'll go up to 18 and we'll come down from 135 or whatever down to 18. I mean, that's a massive number. Remember, I was the one that held a news conference because I lowered drug prices by 1/4%. I think it was 1/8 of 1%, but it was the only one in 28 years that brought drug prices down for the year. But it was a very small number. Now we're talking about, you're going to see one over 1,000%. Look at these numbers. So, and this has a big impact, even on the discussion that we'll have with Chuck Schumer, who was here yesterday, along with a very nice gentleman who I didn't really know. You know who I'm talking about. The two of them came and we had a good discussion, and we're going to see what happens. We're going to see what happens, but this has a huge impact on that because these numbers are going to bring Medicaid. We talk about Obamacare. Obamacare is a failure. Obamacare is not good. It's there, but relative to other healthcare programs, it's in the lower 20%. It's not good. And I asked the Democrat representatives, what do you think about coming up with a better health care? This actually allows you to do that because the cost of prescription medicine is a big, I guess, a very big, more than 50% the cost of what we're talking about. So we might be able to do something like that. This is one of the biggest news conference from a medical standpoint that I think has ever been had by any administration. Yeah, please.
Thank you. I'm curious, where are the other companies other than Pfizer? Are you expecting them to come up later?
They're all with us. And I was honored to have Albert be the first. He's done a fantastic job with, as you know, with the COVID. He did a fantastic job with a lot of things. He's a leader, and Pfizer is right at the top. You know, it's there. Eli Lilly has been fantastic also, your friend, my friend. And they're all coming in over the next week. We're making deals with all of them. And I said, if we don't make a deal, then we're going to tariff them an extra 5, 6, 7, 8%, whatever the difference is, and we'll take it that way. So we took away the advantage by the fact that we have tariffs. We took away the advantage that they would have of just saying no, and we couldn't do anything about it. If they do that, what we do is we'd put a tariff on them of an equivalent amount, and we take it that way. And nobody wants to play that game. So they're going to be, they're all going to be good. We didn't have to mention that to Albert. Well, maybe I whispered it to him very slightly. We had to give ourselves a little bit of an advantage. But no, but the tariffs played a big role because they know that's what's going to happen.
President Trump. You mentioned the tariff, the exemption of the 232s, but can you share a timeline for when we can expect the results of that 232 investigation?
Let Howard answer that question, please.
Sure. So while we're negotiating with these companies, we're going to let them play out and finish these negotiations because they are the most important thing to the American people. So we are standing by, helping and working with them. But the driver of the 232 outcomes is our HHS team because, I mean, look what they've accomplished today. So we are on their side helping them, but that is the model that's going to drive.
And you have to understand, Albert's spending $70 billion that he wouldn't be spending because of the tariffs, let's say, and other reasons. I think he liked the winner of November 5th, in all fairness, but because of the tariffs. And that wouldn't happen. He's not going to pay any tariffs because when he moves here, there are no tariffs. So he won't be paying tariffs. That's the beauty of it. If you move here, there are no tariffs. And we have over $17 trillion, Albert. Do you believe these numbers? So Biden had less than $1 trillion for 4 years. We have over 17 trillion for essentially 8 months. Pretty amazing.
When will prices come down, Mr. President? When can America?
Immediately. They're going to start coming down. Drug prices? Well, they'll be starting immediately. Yeah.
President, can you speak to what impact you think this reduction in drug prices will have on midterms coming up?
I think it's going to have a huge. I said, if we can pull this off before midterms, I've wanted to do it from the beginning, from my first day in first term. And we were doing so well. We had the greatest economy we've ever had. Everything was good. And then we're ready to do this, which is complex and big. It's a big change. But what happened is COVID came and we focused on COVID. We focused on COVID very hard with Albert, with the other companies, with everybody. Regeneron was a great thing. We did a lot of therapeutics that were fantastic. And so we focused on that. And I said, if I pull this off again, the first thing I'm going to do, and we've been working on this really for 8 months. This is a very big deal. This is a big shock to the system. But it's not as much as I said. They're going to go up. The world is going to go up a little bit. We're going to come down a lot. But now it's fair. We're going to be paying the same thing. Yeah.
President Trump, in your first term, when you cut the price of insulin, Biden later came in and tried to steal credit for that. Do you worry that the Democrats are going to try to steal credit for these historic cuts?
I really appreciate your question because I did. I cut the price of insulin down to $35. And the problem is with many of these things, and in this case, it's going to be pretty quick, but oftentimes you'll do something medically because of the process, and it won't be seen for 2 or 3 years. That happened also with, I could say 4 different things, but just if you talk about insulin, so it was 200, 300, 500, and you couldn't get it, and I got it down to 35. And I said, I hope I win the next election because otherwise whoever wins is going to take credit for it. Well, what happened is we did win the election. We did great, but unfortunately it didn't work out that way from a practical standpoint. And Biden, when I saw him get up and take credit for the $35 and even less insulin, that was 1,000% lower than what it was just previous. Boy, I tell you, I didn't like it. I didn't like it. So I did the best I could to let him know we did it because we want to be given credit. But we are the ones that got insulin down to that number. And you're right. They tried to take credit for it. They had nothing to do. In fact, they didn't even know what happened. All of a sudden, the insulin price kicked in at $35. And they asked Biden about it. He had no idea what the hell they were talking about. But after they explained, and they didn't really explain to him because he was not capable really of understanding it. But when they went out and talked about it, they acted like it was a great feat by Biden. It had nothing to do with him. And it continues, and we'll get it down even further. But insulin was, people weren't taking it, I would imagine. They couldn't test. God bless you, Bobby. I hope I didn't catch COVID just there. Don't you have Paxlovid? What is it? He's got Paxlovid. Give me a Paxlovid immediately.
While Nancy Pelosi is ignoring what you're doing for the American people, she's going after your administration for cutting taxpayer-funded healthcare for illegal aliens. Last night, Nancy Pelosi, she went on NBC last night, dropped a bunch of F-bombs, told Republicans to go F themselves. Has she lost her mind?
We have done an unbelievable job medically. Just this, if you did nothing else, we've done a lot like the insulin, but just this, nobody can ever catch this. This is the biggest price reduction times, maybe 10 times, 15 times than has ever been given before. And this is going to have a huge impact. You know, as I said, Obamacare is not a good thing. It's been bad. And I'd like to make it better. I told them, I spoke to a lot of people, a lot of Democrats recently. I said, why don't we change it? We can make Obamacare much better. We could come up with a new system that would be much better, less expensive for the people and better. This is maybe the biggest breakthrough because, you know, when you're talking about the prescription drugs, that's a big part of it. So we're going to look, this is prescription, but we're going to be looking at that. We could come up and through this whole thing, you know, because I don't know, we'll probably have a shutdown because one of the things they want to do is they want to give incredible Medicare, the Cadillac Medicare to illegal immigrants. And what that does is it keeps them coming into our country, and like they do in California. And no country can afford that, no country. And we have the border stopped up. We have it closed. We have nobody for 4 months. Zero people came in. That wasn't me. That's by the authorities who happen to be liberally oriented. But just think of that. We have people offering health care to people all over the world that they can't afford to pay. And that's the Democrats. And what that does is it brings people into the country because they want to come in for the health care. But no country can afford it, and they can't afford it. So we cannot allow them to charge tremendous amounts of money for health care for people that aren't even citizens. And in many cases, they come in from prisons, jails, and mental institutions. And we can't let that happen. So we have a big fight over that. We have a fight over open borders. They still want open borders. We're having a fight over men and women's sports, if you believe it. You would have thought they would have learned that it's not a good issue. And we have a fight in transgender, as you know, transgender for everybody. And that, when you talk medically, that's a lot of money too. That's a lot. Those operations are bad. So those things are also being discussed right now. I mean, can you imagine we're actually talking about open borders, and we now have a great border and we have a great country. Our country was dead 1 year ago. Now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. Big difference. Yeah.
What does it say about the state of the Democrat Party when they have a 33% favorability rating on average in recent months, and they're willing to shut down the government over healthcare?
They are shutting it down. We're not shutting it down. We don't want it to shut down because we have the greatest period of time ever. I told you, we have $17 trillion being invested. So the last person that wants it shut down is us. Now, with that being said, we can do things during the shutdown that are irreversible, that are bad for them and irreversible by them, like cutting vast numbers of people out, cutting things that they like, cutting programs that they like. And you all know Russell Vought. He's become very popular recently because he can trim the budget to a level that you couldn't do any other way. So they're taking a risk by having a shutdown because of the shutdown, we can do things medically and other ways, including benefits. We can cut large numbers of people out. We don't want to do that, but we don't want fraud, waste, and abuse. And, you know, we're cutting that. But they want to have illegal aliens come into our country and get massive health care at the cost to everybody else, and we don't have it. And that's I would say, the number one reason that they want to strike is to get illegal immigrants health care. And, you know, Gavin Newsom wants that too in California, and it's destroying California. We can't have that. We're not going to let it happen.
Do you have a plan for dealing with drug companies that are responding to MFN only by raising prices overseas as opposed to lowering prices in the U.S.?
No, they're responding. I understand that question very well, but they're responding by lowering prices. They're helped by lowering prices. You know, there's a price at which they can't sell. and they're helped by lowering prices. In the case of Albert and in the case of Eli Lilly, the fact is our prices are coming down massively. You see, that's just a few of the basics, but they're coming down much more than that with many drugs, and over 1,000%. Think of that, over 1,000% reduction. And we'll show you that next week because we have some of them on the board next week where you have over 1,000% price reduction. No, what's going to happen is you're going to have the market will kick in. This way, the market kicks in. The other way, it was just basically, it was just a form of control. You were stifling the market. Yeah.
Is a shutdown inevitable? And how would you describe the negotiations with Democrats yesterday? Are more meetings scheduled?
So nothing is inevitable, but I would say it's probably likely because they want to give healthcare to illegal immigrants, which will destroy healthcare for everybody else in our country. And I didn't see them bend even a little bit when I said we can't do that. Okay?
Can I ask a question of Dr. Oz, Administrator Oz? If there is no deal reached on the Obamacare subsidies with the Democrats, is there anything that CMS can do to lower those, or to mitigate the increases of those Obamacare subsidies?
Not really, but we have time. We have time till the end of the year to make the changes. I know the president is evaluating, but we should have a clean continuing resolution, get past this budget process as it has happened so many times, and allow the president and leadership some freedom to be able to put some good ideas in front of the legislative bodies.
Undocumented immigrants
We actually do have time for that.
not eligible for the healthcare subsidies that Democrats are demanding. So can you clarify, what are you talking about when you say Democrats want to protect their healthcare?
So when an illegal person comes in, a person who came into our country illegally, therefore breaking the law, and look, we all have big hearts. I have a bigger heart than you do. They're all breaking the law, and they're coming into our country. And we just, as a country, cannot afford to take care of millions of people who have broken the law coming in. We want them to come into our country, but we want them to come in legally. Now we have a strong border, very strong border, thanks to Christie and Tom Homan and the whole group. They've done an amazing job at the border. I mean, we had a border that was reckless. We had a border that was a disaster. They were coming in by the millions. I say 25 million people. You're saying less, but I say 25 million people came in illegally. And no system can take care of the health care of all of those people that came in. Now, a lot of them have gone out. We have over 11,000 murderers. We got many of them out. Many of those people have been taken out of the country, brought back to where they came from. In some cases, put in prison because they're so dangerous. We don't want to take them out. We have to watch them. We don't want them coming back. But if you look at what's happened in Washington, D.C. right now, it is such a place. I just drove through it. And it's clean and nice and beautiful. And people are walking around and they're not afraid of being mugged. We haven't had murders. We haven't had anything happen in a long time. It took us 12 days to make it very good. It took us 20 days to make it beautiful. And now we're going to Memphis. But I think we should always keep a presence here, because if we don't keep a presence, it's going to come back never like it was, because we got rid of 1,700 career criminals. You know what that is? One career criminal can give you a lousy reputation for danger, because they commit many crimes a day in some cases. But Washington, D.C. is an unbelievable example of what can happen. And now we're going, as you know, to Memphis, which was very similar to Washington, very dangerous. And we're there, and we're working along very well with the governor, the mayor. A lot of these Democrat mayors, you know, what they don't want to have us do well, because if we do well, it makes them look bad, and they shouldn't feel that way. If I were a Democrat and I was a governor or mayor, I'd be calling Trump. I'd say, get your troops over here, just help, because the mayor of Washington is getting a lot of credit for what we did, you know, a lot of credit. But the beauty is, isn't it nice? Seriously, you walk down the street, you're not going to be mugged. You're not going to be hit. We had a meeting about 3-4 months ago, and I was saying to the media, how many of you people have been threatened or mugged or accosted during your walk to the White House? And they said, we don't walk to the White House anymore. But the answer was, remember, Brian, almost everybody's, oh, look at this guy. They even attacked this big, strong guy, right? Didn't you get attacked? Did you? But, yeah, just take a look at the other guy, right? What happened to the other guy? I don't know. Those other guys are pretty tough. They're tough with a gun in their hand, right? And yeah, you were hit pretty hard. But almost everybody was. And now, nobody. Anybody been accosted in the last 3 weeks? If I would have said that 6 months ago, half the hands would have been raised out. No, we have a very safe city now. The country's going to be safe. We're doing one at a time, and we'll be going to Chicago. I told you this, our Union Pacific, head of the railroad. He knows this country very well. Started off as a very low-rung employee of the Union Pacific. He's now chairman. He came to me and he said, sir, save Chicago. It's a great city. It's going down fast. They had 11 people killed over the last couple of weeks. 11 people killed. 48 shot. That's not a city. That's a war zone. There's no city in the world like that. And then we have to listen to this Pritzker get up. I know him well. They threw him out of his business, and the family threw him out of the business because he's a loser. But we have to listen to Pritzker get up. He should call me and say, get the troops in. You ever hear that? 11 people over a week and a half killed. And I think it's 48, when you add it up, 48 people shot. And then I have to listen to a governor say how nice it is. It's a wonderful experience. Now, what is a wonderful experience is D.C. People are eating in the restaurants. They just opened 2 new restaurants, which hasn't worked in years. And we had it pretty good 4 years ago. We were just getting ready to do this, but we did it right. And, you know, we have a big victory in the Supreme Court. It's called merit. And so that includes the military. Our soldiers, did you see what they look like? These guys, they look like serious soldiers. They weren't playing games, and they went in there and they did a fantastic job. And Washington, D.C. is now a beautiful, safe city. The restaurants are thriving. The people are walking down the street holding their husband or their boyfriend's hand, and they're not worried about being raped or mugged or shot at. And it's been an amazing thing. And we'll do that in every city. We'll do them sort of one at a time. We'll do a couple at a time. And we have a tremendous force because, as you know, in recruitment numbers, when we put out 2 years ago, when Biden would put out recruitment, nobody would join. Nobody wanted to be in the military. Nobody wanted to be police. It was just announced this morning. You probably saw my speech over with the military, with the generals, admirals, record numbers of people signing up for the Navy, the Army, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, Space Force. I love Space Force. That was my baby. But we have record numbers of people signing up, and that includes police department, fire department. So, you know, it's been an amazing thing. Well, we're going to have another meeting next week on this. We have another great company coming in, similar kind of numbers. But we're going to show you some 1,000% drops in prices. There has never been anything like this in the history of medicine, and it's an honor. And Albert, I want to thank you, and I want to thank everybody behind me, because you are a great team. We have a great team. Everybody says you have a great cabinet. It's a great team. So thank you, Bobby. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
All right, well, you have just heard the President of the United States articulating a phenomenal drug pricing deal with Pfizer, making some remarks there in the Oval Office. He was joined by the FDA director, the CMS director, the HHS secretary, some advisors, and the CEO of Pfizer, Albert Bourla. Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Emily Campagno, here with my co-hosts, Kayleigh McEnany and Harris Faulkner. And also joining us today, Cheryl Casoni, Fox Business anchor and host of American Dream Home.
Guys, hit the like button, share, and subscribe. Thanks for all the comments. I like it that everybody's keeping it quite peaceful.
New prices, he says, going into effect immediately. Now, in addition to Pfizer promising these lowered prices, they've pledged a $70 billion investment into manufacturing and research and development here. And the website TrumpRx set to be launched soon. And as the president said, notably, this is the first deal of many to come, but Pfizer is first, with some perhaps coming to the table this week. Now, this was called extraordinary vision, impossible. Americans pay 3 times what the world pays, yet we derive the majority of the research and development. And I felt it was significant that his advisors and the members of his cabinet talked about him being ferocious in the negotiating room, relentless, while the CEO, however, of Pfizer said, but it was based on trust created from minute one. And even the CEO calling this a historic moment. The winners, not just the American people, but American innovation and the American economy, Kayleigh.
I think that nails it, that summary. President Trump has been wanting to do this for a long time. During my tenure at the end of the first administration, I remember frequent discussions about most favored nations. That's pegging U.S. drug prices to the equivalent developed Western country at the lowest price. And we talked about doing it, and President Trump put in place an executive order. I talked about it from the podium, but he delayed the implementation because he wanted to give the private sector, these drug companies, time to come around. And what he's managed to do here, this is not top down. This is not Orwellian socialist government, do this, private companies. This is bottom up. President Trump put on the pressure, and these drug companies came to the table. Why? Very importantly, one of the things that you heard there during this briefing, you heard one of the individuals who spoke say exactly this. This is about this, Dr. Oz, protecting medical advancement for the future and securing prices today. So important. Conservatives want to secure medical advancements for the future. We can't do a socialist Bernie-like policy on these drug companies, but we also want to lower prices. President Trump has managed to use the threat of most favored nations to force a private sector outcome that will not stop a medical innovation. It is extraordinary what he has done. He wanted to do this term one. Unfortunately, we got a 4-year lapse with Joe Biden, but look at him. Not even a year into his presidency, he got it done.
And Michael, to Kaylee's point, this was said today that the president created the template. This deal created the template for corporate who are trying to stay healthy, managing illness, or fighting for their lives. What do you see happening?
I mean, it's absolutely remarkable. I want people to understand that drug pricing is sort of one of those Gordian knots of American politics that we've tried to fix administration after administration, and just nobody was able to get it done because it's so complicated. It really is like a complicated trade deal almost. But Donald Trump does that. And not only do that, he does that on this day while we have Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries threatening to shut down the government over Obamacare subsidies. They passed the Affordable Care Act, and they still need subsidies to make the exchanges affordable. And to think that Donald Trump just did what no American president has been able to do on the same day and lower drug prices for Americans, it's huge.
And we heard anecdotes, Harris, that many of us already know. Americans making choices to spend their money on saving their own lives or that of their family members. Horrific stories. Things that drugs manufactured in New Jersey but sold in the UK for some reason for a tenth of the price. Spending $180,000 on one drug and resorting to get drugs on secondary unsafe markets. That was the past. But today it was said we begin to right that ship.
So those drugs.
If pharmacy prices go down, do you know what that means for people living here in the United States? It would be incredible if it's true. I have 3 family members fighting cancer, and would you imagine they're paying like $80 as a copay to go have a treatment when they're limited to working because the treatment makes them sick? So just imagine if we can get the pharmacy prices down. That would be a big win.
I think it's been the negotiating tactic for this president that has worked in his first term and the second one. And he applies it like peanut butter wherever it sticks, right? And in this time, it's sticking. And so Eli Lilly was one that he called out today. I think the next chapter of the story is going to be next week, because that's when potentially some of the first meetings beyond Pfizer begin. And if Eli Lilly, he thinks he can make a deal maybe within the next 6 months, that's a big deal. Because, you know, I was looking at some of the things that Pfizer specializes in. Of course, we all think of like Paxlovid, which he talked about, and we think of.
Okay, the Abbey for Every Man says it would be incredible for my father. I hope it is true, but no way Trump isn't lying. Okay, Lola W. Britton, thank you guys for your likes and your share and subscribing is very important. Lola Britt says Trump is lying again. Okay, Anthony Durante says, where are the Epstein files? Okay, we have a lot of comments coming in. Great. Nick says Oregon and Chicago will take him to court and he will lose again. But as long as he is deflecting away from the facts, then he is accomplishing nothing for the middle class. The cult is entertained. Okay, Faith Karma is here. We know your wife is struggling, so this will be beneficial if the prices could somehow come down.
They already do have facilities that operate here in the United States. And the good news for Pfizer, other drug companies are going to play ball now.
Well, first of many. Thank you all. Here's America Reports.
Okay, very good. All right, guys. So that's it for that segment of the show. We're going to take a look now at what's happening with Comey. As you know, Comey has been indicted, so let's get to it.
Tonight with a Fox News alert, major breaking news tonight. Former FBI Director James Comey, or as he likes to describe himself, Mr. Higher Honor, has been indicted by a federal grand jury in Virginia. Comey is now facing 2 charges, obstruction of a congressional proceeding and lying to Congress. If he is convicted, he will face 5 years in prison on each count. President Trump writing on Truth Social tonight, quote, "Justice in America. Comey has been so bad for our country and is now at the beginning of being held responsible for his crimes against our nation." As I myself told James Comey right here on this show a long time ago, he has the right to remain silent. We'll remind him again. Take a look. By the way, the last thing we need are lectures from Jim Comey. And by the way, Jim, just a reminder, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you.
People are being given 20 days to move their savings out of bank accounts. Just
I think we're in better shape tonight.
Okay, I'm sorry to announce, according to Faith's Karma, that his wife lost her battle with cancer 2 weeks ago. I'm so sorry to hear that. I didn't hear that. We're definitely, you have our good thoughts. We're sending well wishes your way. We know it's a tough time for you.
Anyway, I predict that tonight is only the tip of the iceberg. Pay very close attention as we go through this all throughout the show tonight. This is going to have a cascading effect. The same James Comey that protected Hillary Clinton and looked the other way when her team, we'd never heard of BleachBit, using BleachBit to clean their servers and acid wash them, basically. They were full of top secret classified information. Remember,
Charm Bade, welcome back. Thank you so much. Charm Bade says, so sorry, prayers for Faith's Karma. That's so great of so kind of you. Faith's Karma is responding favorably to everybody that's showing love. Keep showing love for him. He lost his wife, and give regards to his family as well. Nick says, if you are in MAGA and are confused as to why you support Russia and are against Ukraine, it's because all of the right-wing media is Russian propaganda. Okay. And again, Faith, you're getting a lot of love in the comments. Thank you, guys.
Remember, he said no reasonable prosecutor would prosecute. Remember, there were phones that were smashed with hammers and SIM cards removed from phones as well. Oh, and Joe Biden, of course, had top secret classified information. He didn't get raided. Hillary didn't get raided. No reasonable prosecutor would prosecute. Only go after Donald Trump and Mar-a-Lago and go into Melania's closet. Tonight, well, they are not getting away with covering their tracks like she did. Attorney General Pam Bondi tonight writing on X, quote, "No one is above the law. Today's indictment reflects this Department of Justice's commitment to hold."
Do you guys think this is justice, or do you think this is settling the score and witch hunts? What do you think?
Those who abuse positions of power accountable for misleading the American people. We will follow the facts in this case. And, you know, let's take this time right now to remind you of some of the facts in this case. On this program, we have spent years uncovering, unpeeling every layer of the onion of the Russian.
Brad Knox says Fox does nothing but spread lies. Okay. All right. Marksman's X says Russian propaganda was a play to get Hillary Clinton, the most unlikable woman in the world, elected, and try to convince the people. Okay, the comments are moving so fast. Brad Knox says abuse of power. Dan Jacobs says it was a witch hunt. Okay, a lot of people are saying it's a witch hunt. Charm Bade says MAGA here, not a Russia fan though. Aaron Ball says, what about the secret files Trump took home? Okay, what were in those files? We want to know, people. Victor says justice, leftist hates it. All right. Joe Wilson says Fox lies fact. They were successfully sued for $850 million. Okay. All right. Nick Sidner says, or Snyder says, they all played Trump's easily, whether it's Putin, Netanyahu, or the CEO. They all play them, folks. They play them easy. The honest verdict says witch hunt. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Russia hoax and the lie. And it took a small ensemble cast, some of which will be joining us tonight, to get to the truth. We have been vindicated by the Horowitz report, the Durham report, over and over again, newly declassified information. But as alleged in this indictment, count one, on September.
Now, in harmony with the government shutdown, Nikki makes a good point. She says all Trump wants is a photo op just to get the cameras, and he will brag that he's done something great. But he gets mad when real reporters ask him where we're going to see anything that's actually going to happen. Okay, Shaka Shah says they lied about Russia. Okay, thank you, guys. Hit the like button, share, and subscribe.
The 30th, 2020, nearly 5 years ago, during a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing, former FBI Director James Comey denied when asked that he had authorized the release of classified information to the news media by allowing a friend and a colleague of his to be cited as an anonymous source. Take a look at what Comey said that day. Take a look.
He then asked you, quote, have you ever authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump investigation or the Clinton administration? You responded again under oath, no. Now, as you know, Mr. McCabe, who works for you, has publicly and repeatedly stated that he leaked information to the Wall Street Journal and that you were directly aware of it and that you directly authorized it. Now, what Mr. McCabe is saying and what you testified to this committee cannot.
Sharon says Trump is doing a great job on all fronts. Charles Pearson says, of the truth hurts, feel the pain. Okay, all right. Thank you, guys. Keep participating.
Both be true. One or the other is false. Who's telling the truth?
I can only speak to my testimony. I stand by what the testimony you summarized that I gave in May of 2017.
So your testimony is you've never authorized anyone to leak. And Mr. McCabe, if he says contrary, is not telling the truth. Is that correct?
Again, I'm not going to characterize Andy's testimony, but mine is the same today.
Okay. Jim Peacock says, I'm making more under Trump than under Biden. Gas is cheaper. Eggs are cheaper. Monkey Juice says Trump's done nothing. Okay. AI Botanica is back. Can anyone tell me who is the actual leader of the DNC? Great question. Okay, great question. All right.
Now, it turns out that appears to be a lie. Remember, Andrew McCabe leaked to the Wall Street Journal, we believe, at Comey's direction. Comey's own friend, a special government employee, Columbia Law School professor, leaking to the New York Times at Comey's direction. Now, on to count two, the numerous other false, misleading statements Comey is accused to have made in that exact same hearing. Comey was asked by Senator Lindsey Graham, who will join us in a minute, about a memo he received from the Director of National Intelligence, effectively making the investigation of Hillary Clinton's emails disappear, replacing it with the Russia hoax. Comey said he never remembered, had no clue what happened. Watch this.
So do you recall getting an inquiry from the the intelligence community in September 2016 about a concern that the Clinton campaign was going to create a scandal regarding Trump and Russia?
I do not.
You don't remember getting a investigatory lead from the intelligence community? September the 7th, 2016, the U.S. intelligence officials forwarded an investigative referral of FBI Director James Comey and Assistant Director of Counterintelligence Peter Strzok regarding U.S. presidential candidate Hillary Clinton's approval of a plan concerning U.S. presidential candidate Donald Trump and Russian hackers hampering U.S. elections as a means of distracting the public from her use of a private email server. You don't remember getting that or being taught that?
There was downpouring rain all night. There was a lot of water pouring into the basement, and
That doesn't ring bells with me.
Okay. Well, that's a pretty stunning thing. It didn't ring a bell, but it did come to you.
Now, Senator Graham was on this program that very same night. I asked him whether or not he
Okay, guys, put a 1 in the chat if gas is cheaper for you under Trump versus Biden. Put a 2 in if gas has gone up.
believed James Comey. Here's a reminder.
All I can say is he has a convenient memory.
He remembers what is damning to Trump, and when something is helpful to Trump, it's like Sergeant Schultz was in charge of the FBI. I see nothing, I hear nothing, I know nothing. It's hard to believe that the director of the FBI, in charge of an investigation of a sitting president, wasn't told, oh, by the way, the subsource who prepared the dossier, we think it's a Russian agent back to 2009. It's hard to believe they didn't tell the director of the FBI. The subsource tells us that the dossier is bar talk, not reliable, take it with a grain of salt. It's hard to believe that they don't tell the FBI director the CIA has warned us that the dossier prepared by Christopher Steele and a suspected Russian spy is all internet rumor. So here's Comey's problem. If one person can come forward and say, I briefed the director about the problems with the subsource, I told the director that the CIA was worried about the reliability of the dossier, then he is in big time trouble.
And Mr. Higher Honor allegedly didn't just lie during that hearing. He also appears to have willfully lied to a Pfizer court several times, saying that he had enough verified information to warrant the surveillance of American citizens, starting with Carter Page, backdooring into all things Trump world. He never did. And remember, the Pfizer law mandates that if you present information to a Pfizer court to spy on an American citizen and later find out that information was false, the law requires you to go back to the Pfizer court and correct the record immediately. It does not look like that ever happened. In fact, if Comey and his friends could do it all over again, we learned from questioning us.
Okay, Sigma Enigma says gas went up, saying it went down. You're a true supporter for the vote you made and the jazz it delivered. Lying doesn't help the man. Okay, Mr. Mike says neither has anything to do with gas prices. Come on, people. Charmed by Dave says Comey is a criminal.
Senator Lindsey Graham, they never would have signed the Pfizer warrants. Why didn't they tell the Pfizer court that? Listen.
If you knew then what you know now, would you have signed the warrant application in June of 2017 against Carter Page?
No, sir.
Okay. If you knew then what you know now, would you have signed the warrant application?
No, I would not.
Well, I believe you didn't know that what you signed was wrong. The question is, if you had known, you wouldn't have signed it. Is that correct?
No, if I had known that it contained incorrect information, I certainly wouldn't have signed it.
Knowing then what you know now about all the things that we've come to find, would you have still signed the warrant application against Carter Page in October, January, and April?
No, I would want a much more complete understanding of what we were.
Thank you very much.
When you knew that, Mr. Higher Honor, why didn't you go back to the court? The current FBI director, Kash Patel, writing on X earlier this evening, quote, today, your FBI took another step in its promise to full accountability. For far too long, previous corrupt leadership and their enablers weaponized federal law enforcement, damaging once proud institutions, severely eroding public trust. Every day, we continue to fight to earn that trust back. And under my leadership, this FBI will confront the problem head on. Nowhere was this politicization of law enforcement more blatant than during the Russiagate hoax, a disgraceful chapter in history we continue to investigate and expose. Everyone, especially those in positions of power.
Nikki Snyder says, I wish I could bet some of these people on here Trump will not bring prices down. Okay. All right. Clarence Appleton says, why do push this narrative about gas prices? Presidents do not control the price of gasoline nor the price of a barrel of oil. Oil and gasoline prices are influenced by the market forces and OPEC. Okay, thank you for your expression. Thank you guys for the like, share, and subscriptions. Jim Peacock says TDS is serious mental disorder. Seek help immediately before you hurt yourself and others. Okay, PH says, oops, didn't realize I stepped into a brain vacuum room. Have fun, MAGA. Okay.
Will be held to account no matter their perch. No one is above the law. You hear that, last part from the left all the time. No one's above the law, not even a former FBI director. Now, Comey's arraignment to face these charges will be on October the 9th. Earlier tonight, Mr. Higher Honor released this video on Instagram responding to the indictment. Take a look.
My family and I have known for years that there are costs
to standing up to Donald Trump. But we couldn't imagine ourselves living any other way. We will not live on our knees, and you shouldn't either. Somebody that I love dearly recently said that fear is the tool of a tyrant, and she's right. But I'm not afraid, and I hope you're not either. I hope instead you are engaged, you are paying attention, and you will vote like your beloved country depends upon it, which it does.
Recently, his daughter was fired from the Southern District of New York. And I remember when she made her statement, I believe she said that fear, the statement he just made. So he's talking about his daughter, perhaps her getting fired, and now he's taking the screws, right? Donald Trump is putting the screws to him. Although Trump claimed he really didn't know much about it, it's hard to believe that, but I'll see what you guys have to say about it.
My heart is broken for the Department of Justice, but I have great confidence in the federal judicial system, and I'm innocent. So let's have a trial and keep the faith.
I'm afraid of him.
Okay, do you guys think the faith is going to help him survive Donald Trump? He's going to need a lot of faith, folks. In fact, Michael Cohen, Donald Trump's old fixer / attorney, says he thinks that Comey is actually going to do some jail time, I believe, which I find it hard. Well, let's see. Charles Anderson says Trump rolling is strong. Okay, very good. Josh Parson says, how about those Epstein files? Everybody wants to know. So many stories I cover here on the channel, hot topics, but the question I see presiding every day is, where are the Epstein files? People want to know, will we see the Epstein files? I don't think so. Patricia says, I say Trump is unhinged, but he's only the mouthpiece. So who do you think the real deal, if he's the mouthpiece, who do you think the real powers that be? Tell us what you think, Patricia. Thank you so much. Lord Dathka says they are crying about gas prices when Biden and POTUS are blamed it on him. Can't make this crap up. Okay, thank you guys. So we have people here on both sides of the aisle. It's great to see we're having great discussions, although it's pretty heated today, but we did have a lot of people come through as we covered Donald Trump's announcement. Fates Karma says, big business. Okay, big business. Okay. All right, folks. Well, that's going to sum it up for us today. Thank you guys for tuning in to the channel. Hit the notification button. Subscribe to the channel. Every day we cover the big stories in the media, and we cover it from a an unbiased way. We try not to get too far in any direction. I don't think it's healthy for anyone. In fact, when you talk to a Republican, you could probably find some of the other side of the aisle thought processes that they go through. And also, when you listen to a Democrat, they don't totally agree 100% with Democrats, right? So I think there's room there for us to have good discussions, healthy discussions, and not get violent, not start shooting at each other, not having to grab someone and try to throw them down, things of that nature. But thank you guys for tuning in. Face Karma says, hey, Mel, are you going to cover what's happening in Dearborn, Michigan? Yes, I covered that yesterday at lunch. I will tap back in probably tonight around 8 o'clock, and we'll go over, I think there's about 3 or 4 shootings. I do not like to cover so much negative at one time, but unfortunately, this is real life in America right now. People are going through some tough situations with all these shootings, and they're touching the areas of life where people are comfortable. When you go to church, I heard a story about the shooting that happened on Sunday. There were quite a few women in wheelchairs. Now, I thought to myself, having a religious background, these women that they mentioned, and men, probably that was their only time out of the house for the week, right? They go to church on Sunday religiously. Probably some of these individuals haven't missed their service in years, and they're like sitting ducks, right? The guy comes in and starts shooting at these individuals. How sad and undesirable this is. Aaron Ball says, I neither, and I can see the clown show. Okay. All right, Patricia says the filthy rich, including Peter Thiel and others. Okay, now Peter Thiel, I believe Steve Bannon and Elon Musk, their names came up allegedly. We covered it actually yesterday as being on the Epstein files, but we don't know. You know, we're only as good as what's being told in the media sometimes. Sigma Enigma says showdown at Oregon as Trump thinks they're at war. Okay, yes, Oregon and also Chicago. I'm going to definitely cover how Chicago is really taking the heat from the National Guard, that they're really trying to clamp down. Now, when I originally heard about the cities that the National Guard is being sent to, I was thinking about all the shooting that's happening in tough neighborhoods, but so far in the media, all we hear about is the National Guard or what have you, or ICE facing Antifa, right? That's what the whole headlines has been about for Portland, Oregon, as well as in Chicago. I was shocked to hear that. I thought they'd be in the trenches going up against the guys who are shooting people every day. Sometimes in Chicago, they have 10 shootings in a weekend. Like, what's really going on? Deanna Ryan says depravity in full force, a billionaire symptom. Okay. Thank you for your expression. Ibu Torres says no one is above the law, Obama included. Okay, so yeah, Obama is currently taking on the heat. He's under investigation too. That's a fact. It's been quiet, but it's something that's happening. EJP says you wear a suit and a tie, but then put on a Yankees baseball cap. Okay. All right. Somebody don't like that. Isn't it beautiful, folks, to have free expression, right? I never really criticize what people wear, right? That's just not my nature. Okay. Jeanette Jones says, but shout out to you. You're due to your expressions, and you should be blessed for that. Jeanette Jones says Trump has 34 felonies. I attended that trial and I saw it for myself. I actually sat in court and I heard a lot of the witnesses. I heard a lot of expressions in regards to Donald Trump. So in the end, he received 34 felonies. I was there. Donald Trump would walk past me every day, pretty much, that I was in court. I saw him actually sleeping a lot. And ultimately, we didn't get to see like a major finale because he became the president of the United States. Okay, Deanna Ryan says EJP lack of intelligence. Oh, thanks for coming to my aid. I did not want to say that, but again, everybody's entitled to their expression. I'm a big boy. I can take on any type of heat, so it's all good. Fates Karma says, what? The cap matches the suit. Okay, he is repping his team. Mel is just being himself. Right on. I paid to get to this spot, so that's why I can sit here and do what I do. I worked hard throughout my life. I have the freedom. Charm by Day says fake felonies. Okay, a lot of people feel that way, especially Donald Trump. Fake felonies. Okay, Barbara says the deep state is losing. That's what's going on with the Democrats threatening us. Okay, Daniel Garrett says he's laughing his rear off. Okay, thank you. Daniel Garrett says, I can smell their lack of education. Okay, very good. All right, JDP says, welcome in and thank you for joining. Watching the World 777. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. In the meantime, enjoy the live. Great. You have a sense of poetry there, JDP. Daniel says, if I dodge taxes, I go to jail. Okay, good expression. George Gomes, shout out to you. Thanks for being here. Deborah is here. Deborah says, shame on you, EJP. Okay, a lot of reprimanding is going down from our strong team here at Watching the World. Tomorrow at lunch, we will definitely be covering the hot topics again. Stay tuned. If there's any breaking news, you could always come to Watching the World. We try to cover those moments, especially lately. Throughout the week, we keep having these crazy shootings. Like, we need to cut that out, but it has become human nature. It has become a part of society, a very dark part of society. Dirty Money says deal made with Big Farm. Donald Trump is making deals every day. Now, I don't want to start preaching to you guys, but yesterday, Donald Trump, we covered his meeting with Netanyahu, right? And think about it, Israel, if you connect the modern day Israel with the biblical Israel, then you would say that these wars, primarily over the promised land, over land, has been going on for thousands of years. I think Donald Trump even mentioned that in his speech yesterday, right? So for him to create eternal peace, well, I would love to see that. He's pretty much going to defy the Bible, but it might happen, folks. Donald Trump does great works, especially if you listen to the people of MAGA that strongly believe in Donald Trump. Okay, so Charm Bade keeps saying, he says those are fake felonies. We got to fish, dude. Says the left set him up. Wake up. Look at the big picture. Okay. All right. There's always that debate. We can definitely dig what you're saying there, though. We got to fish. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for your likes. Thank you guys for subscribing. Keep coming back as we keep discussing what's happening, the great topics of the day. Daniel Garrett says it's all the immigrants' fault, the people with no money or power. Okay. That has always been the case, right? There's always the poor. So you make a very good point, Daniel. AI Botanica says Netanyahu, okay, and Trudeau are talking today soon. Okay. I'm shocked that Israel Netanyahu would make a deal, especially when Donald Trump says that he will not allow the annexing, right? He will not allow that. I don't see how this deal could go through. But we wait to see the outcome that's going to happen with Hamas. I think he gave them, 72 hours? So let's see how the story unfolds and see if they will really have peace. It's a shame that so many people are dying. At the end of the day, a lot of people are dying because of their beliefs, right? And a lot of that stems from, unfortunately, their belief in God, the way they see God, because of which religion, right? Oftentimes religion is the lens through which men see God, and whatever that religion prescribes to is often how people see the world. And then they want to, you'll always have these fights between Christians and Muslims, and so forth and so on. Thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to call it quits for today, but thank you very much. I'll take one more comment. It's going to be Lycon. I don't think I spoke of you today. Less than a third of U.S. adults are actually Trump supporters. Wow. That's a point. Wow. Good point. Okay. All right. So, and AI Botanica says the Abraham, as Donald Trump says yesterday, most people say Abraham Pact. Okay. Is that a new label for that group? Okay, well, we'll see what happens. Stay tuned. We'll be back on tomorrow at lunch. Tap in. We want to hear from your comments. If you would ever like to come up and express yourself, give your comments, feel free to do so. And again, you guys enjoy the rest of your day. And when you're in public, we're starting to see you can't be so embedded into your phone, folks. If you stare in your phone too long, it could cost you your life when you have a world where people are taking people's lives in public and shooting from a distance. It's easy to sit back and say, oh, it's not a big deal. What's the likelihood that this could happen to me? And then all of a sudden you're sitting in church, right? Your comfort zone, and you have a guy ramming his car into the building, shooting 10 plus people, and then setting the place on fire, right? What are the odds? But there's always someone, right? There's always someone at the other end of that barrel. So thank you so much and have a good day. And we will be back on shortly to bring you more good hot topics. And we do so from an unbiased standpoint.
Different voices but the same song. Loving a world where we all belong. Kindness leading the way, breaking the chains. In the symphony of love, the thing remains. Embracing diversity, brighter days in sight. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. The colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might.